Straight to our top global story, US economist Richard Thaler has won 2017 Nobel Prize for Economics. The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences said that Thaler was being honored for his contribution in the field of behavioral economics. The Academy said Thaler's work has had profound impact on many areas of economic research and policy. Thaler developed the theory of mental accounting. His studies help explain how people simplify financial decision-making and how cognitive limitations influence financial markets. The announcement comes as a setback for many Indians who had been hoping for a Nobel to economist Raghuram Rajan. He was also in race.
Thaler has given us new insights into how human psychology shapes decision-making. He has devised new experimental tools to investigate human behavior. His research has spawned a new field, behavioral economics. And he has shown how policies based on insights from this field can help people make better decisions. He's made economics more human.
And as India seeks big-ticket investments in its vast, rapidly growing energy market, PM Modi today met oil and gas sector CEOs and experts from across the world in capital New Delhi. Top CEOs and officials from global companies included Rosneft, British Petroleum, Reliance, Saudi Aramco, ExxonMobil, Royal Dutch Shell, Vedanta, IH Market. While energy from India, giants from energy Indian companies were ONGC, Indian Oil, GAIL, Petronet, Oil India and Hindustan Petroleum. They were also present at the meeting today. The meeting was also attended by Indian Petroleum Minister Dharmendra Pradhan. The meeting is taking place at a time Indian government is thinking of ways to reduce oil imports and create a gas-based economy. Today's meeting was PM Modi's second session with captains and experts of global oil industry. PM Modi had earlier in January 2016 held a session on increasing domestic production of oil and gas as well as ways to attract larger investments in the domestic oil industry. PM Modi's last session with oil firm CEOs had set the stage for key initiatives to make it easier for explorers to do business in India and oil market reforms such as deregulation of diesel pricing, market pricing for gas from difficult discoveries, and a more transparent exploration policy based on revenue share instead of profit share. And staying with India news, where over 9 million truckers have gone on an indefinite strike. The two-day strike is in protest against implementation of goods and services tax and inclusion of diesel under the ambit of new indirect tax regime. The truckers are expected to suffer billions of dollars worth of loss, but have decided to go idle to press their demands. The All India Motor Transport Congress and the All India Transporters Welfare Association have called the strike, which is one of the biggest against the government in recent times. And staying with India news, in a development that can hit the business of makers of firecrackers in India, the Apex Court Supreme Court has upheld the verdict banning sale of firecrackers in the Delhi and National Capital Region. A plea on the matter had sought restoration of Apex Court's 2016 verdict that puts a stop to the sale of firecrackers in the National Capital Region. Last year in November, Supreme Court had ruled in favor of suspension of all licenses permitting sale of fireworks, wholesale and retail within the NCR territory. The overall firecracker market in India is worth between $1 to $1.5 billion, and Delhi market accounts for around 1/10 of the total market. The Central Pollution Control Board has come out in support of the ban on firecrackers. Well, this ruling is a result of a petition filed on behalf of 3 infants aged between 6 and 14 months in 2015, asking for a ban on loud firecrackers. Arun Goyal, Arav Bhandari and Zoya Rao Bhasin, they have urged the Apex Court to take action as they were foremost prone to lung disease, asthma and other health issues. The petition was filed by their fathers on their behalf.
Between now and the 2nd of November, there is no further sale of crackers in the NCR region. No further crackers are allowed to come into the NCR region. The Supreme Court has done this in the hope that the prevention of a further sale of firecrackers will help the Delhi authorities determine the amount and the extent of air pollution that is caused by firecrackers, so that going forward from the 2nd of November, there can be detailed studies and take this into account.
An Indian government will revisit 900 billion export target set by 2020 as country's shipments are not able to show healthy growth rate in the first 3 years. Indian government feels there is a need to revisit export target because in the external world, nobody calculated for the global commodity prices and currency fluctuations. On April 1st, 2015, India announced a slew of incentives and new institutional mechanisms as part of new foreign trade policy to nearly double country's goods and services exports to $900 billion by 2020. Also, it was agreed in the meeting that each Export Promotion Council or EPC is now going to prepare a concrete strategic action plan for what can be done in the foreseeable future to boost exports. Now, people who participated in the meeting include leading exporters, export promotion councils, associations, industry chambers and spices boards as well. And Indian foreign exchange reserves have come down by $2.5 billion to $399.65 billion in the week ended September 29 due to decline in foreign currency assets. The reserves decreased by $262.3 million to $402 million after touching a lifetime record of $402 billion in the week to September 15. So Indian foreign reserves have dipped. The reserves are down by $2.59 billion to around $400 billion. And the Forex dip is on decline in currency assets. And dip in Forex for the week ended September 29. This has taken place. Reserves have touched lifetime high of $402.5 billion last month. The foreign currency assets have decreased by $2.565 billion to $375 billion. The main attributors for dip in currency reserves include effect of appreciation or depreciation of non-US currencies such as euro, the pound and the yen held in the reserve. Gold reserves remain untouched at $20.69 billion. The special drawing rights with the International Monetary Fund or IMF have declined by $10 million to around $1.502 billion. The country's reserves position with the IMF has declined by $15.2 million to around $2.276 billion. And the big worry in India after the opposition, now government agencies are raising the red flag over the economy. According to reports, a series of surveys by Reserve Bank of India have indicated that consumer confidence is declining and business sentiment in manufacturing is dipping. This comes days after RBI slashed growth forecast from 7.3% to 6.7% for fiscal 2017 and 18. A consumer confidence survey carried out in 6 metro cities, Bengaluru, Chennai, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Mumbai and Delhi showed 40.7% of respondents believe economic situation has worsened. The biggest worry for respondents was that employment prospects are down. RBI chief, however, has been quoted as saying the economic growth is expected to exceed 7% in the second half of the financial year. The government has been facing criticism over slow growth and job creation of late. The most severe criticism has come from former finance minister and senior BJP leader Yashwant Sinha himself. And India's Finance Minister Arun Jaitley is on an official visit to the US, where he will attend annual meetings of International Monetary Fund, IMF and the World Bank. Now, during his visit, he will be meeting CEOs of global MNCs and foreign investors. In his 3-day stay in Washington, Jaitley will also hold bilateral meetings with the US Commerce Secretary and participate in an interactive seminar organized by FICCI. He will take part in investor meetings organized by Bank of America and CII. This is FM Jaitley's maiden visit to America. And FMCG giant Unilever's flagship toiletry brand Dove is facing the heat over its social media post. An image uploaded by Dove on its Facebook page showed a black woman taking off her shirt to reveal a white woman, inviting the wrath of many social media users who called it racist. The outrage has forced Dove to issue an apology and remove the image from its Facebook page. It's not the first time Dove has been criticized for being racially insensitive. In 2011, an ad showed two women of color and a white woman standing in front of before and after signs, triggering massive outrage. And as the negotiations for a successful Brexit continues between European Union and UK, Britain's Prime Minister Theresa May will meet GlaxoSmithKline, Vodafone and HSBC and other major companies today to hear what they want from talks on Britain's links with the EU after Brexit. The meeting comes in the backdrop of businesses becoming increasingly alarmed by the slow progress of negotiations and the prospect that country could crash out of the trading bloc without a deal in 2019. Now, businesses have also complained that the voice has been drowned out by disagreement and division in the government, and they have not heard anything to give them the certainty they need to plan and invest in their businesses. The UK government sought to reset its links with employers by setting up a business advisory council in June, shortly after May lost her majority in a bungled election. Theresa May will be joined by Finance Minister Philip Hammond, Business Minister Greg Clark, Minister for Exiting the EU David Davis and Trade Minister Liam Fox of the Council. And as the Qatar-Arab tensions are far from getting over, Qatar's government has announced measures to help private sector businesses boom. Qatar's economy has been hurt badly after sanctions were imposed by other Arab states. Now, Qatar will cut rents paid by companies in Qatar's logistic zones in half during 2018 and 2019. So Qatar is attempting to revive its economy. Qatar has ordered aid to private sector in the country. Arab sanctions have hurt Qatar economy badly, and Qatar now plans to cut rents paid by companies in logistic zones. This will be a way to boost businesses in Qatar. New investors to be completely exempt from paying rents as far as Qatar is concerned, and Qatar's economy has expanded 0.6% from a year earlier. Qatar economy has been growing slowly, and it's the slowest since 2019 and 2010 financial crisis. Well, as per the proposal, new investors in the zones will be completely exempt from paying rents for a year if they obtain building permits by certain deadlines. Qatar Development Bank, a state-founded body which lends to firms, will postpone receiving loan installments for up to 6 months to facilitate industrial sector projects. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain and Egypt had cut diplomatic and transport ties on June 5. The four states accused Doha of supporting terrorism, which Doha denies. The sanctions are triggered and they are a result of a pullout of deposits by Gulf states from Qatari banks. They have deepened a slump in real estate prices and caused a plunge of 18% in the stock market too. And news from the global aviation space, where in the growing signs of tensions between US and Canada over its plane makers, the US Commerce Department has notched up proposed trade duties on Bombardier C-Series jets to nearly 300%. Well, this has affirmed Boeing's complaints that Canadian company has received illegal subsidies and dumped the planes at absurdly low prices. The decision underscored the defensive trade policy of US President Donald Trump and could effectively halt sales of Bombardier's innovative new planes to US. Airlines by quadrupling the cost of the jets imported to the US. The new duty follows a basic finding that Bombardier sold 75 C-Series jets below cost to Delta Airlines. in 2016. The total was well above 80%, Boeing sought in its complaint. However, the proposed duties would not take effect unless affirmed by the US International Trade Commission early next year. The duties are expected to heighten trade tensions between US, Canada and Britain, where C-Series wings are made. The US, Canada and Mexico also are negotiating to modernize the North American Free Trade Agreement.